Dear Blender user, welcome in this tutorial. Today I would like to share with you my first step with Eevee, the Blender's real-time render engine. And for me, I think it's a game changer, especially if you work on low computer without any GPU calculation, because Eevee allows you to make clearly a good realistic render without the cost of the render time. And you will see that with cycle, if you don't have a good graphic cards, sometimes it's very difficult to work clearly. Here I'm on the GPU compute, I switch to CPU. You can see that the path tracing goes up very slowly. It's difficult to work with materials, to change things on your scene and see clearly what's happening in the viewport. So Eevee, I think it's a bit more complicated to set up, but it's have a lot of potential to earn production time after in the life cycle of your project. So what I would like to do in this first video is how to set up correctly a scene ready to go with Eevee. Okay. First, things that I want to set is the occlusion. Okay, just is the occlusion here. Okay. Yes, that's it. Okay, and you will see that the occlusion is really simply set up, because the only factor you would like to change is the distance. Okay, and you can see too low value makes some really dark edge here, not really beautiful. So probably it's better to set a distance between 1 meter and 1.5 meters, etc. Okay. You will see that I have here a reference of a human scale here. Okay, and my scene is respect actually the real size, the size in the real world. Okay, and Eevee is very sensitive to the distance and the size between the elements. So you also need to set up your unit system. I recommend to set up in a metric unit system. Okay, and to create your scene, your stuff in real size. It will avoid you a lot of problem after that. Okay, so basically, don't keep in mind to check your geometry. Okay, and the Blender unit. Okay, so like this, Blender unit done. And you also will see that you don't need to switch and to set insane value here, like 15 meters or whatever. Okay, good. Now your occlusion is okay. The second thing you want to add, usually there is a sun. Okay, so you could add here a sun, and the first thing you will see that in Blender Eevee, the position of the sun is important. Okay, it's not a simple directional mass of light coming from one direction. The position of the sun is really important. So what you would like to do is probably to set your sun for this kind of scene here, in my case, something like this. Okay, and I will just rotate a bit the light like this. Okay, and you will see that I have here the shadow. Okay, don't forget to check the shadow here, and you can see that now if I make something like this, I have some strange things happens here, okay? And it's only because the position counts, and in your light, you need to tweak the clipping, okay? If I set the clipping to 10, the shadow, the sun casts shadow in a distance about 10 meters, and after the shadow is not casted. So it's not useful to set some things completely crazy value here, okay? But in my case here, 15 meters, I think it's okay. Okay, too low value may create some strange things. Okay. So take care of the clipping. The second thing to take care about the sun, but also available for all lights, is the Cascade shadow setup, okay, in the render settings. And Cascade size I set to, in my case, is 1K, but sometimes is a lower value, okay. But you will see that if you would like to make hard shadow or to tweak the softness of the shadow, and you set to maybe 0 here, okay, you won't have something better than that, okay. And it's probably because the shadow Cascade size is too low, okay. I use here extremely low value, okay, and you can see that the texture has not any information to cast correctly the shadow. If I set the Cascade size to 4K, okay, you can see now that I have hard shadow, okay. 4K is a bit too high. I think 2K texture quality is enough to do everything. And now you can see that the softness counts, and you could see clearly what you would like to do, okay. So don't expect to set low value here and to have hard shadow if your Cascade size is not set into high quality texture. Yes, the one last thing about the sun, but also for whole shadow, whole lights, excuse me, is you could set the contact shadow. You will see that here self-shadowing or not works very well, and for some small details it won't work at all. So you could check contact shadow, and you could see that now I have a second layer of shadow, okay, with a better definition, better quality, and I could just blend here. Usually I like to blend the contact shadow with the shadow, okay, so I use something like, in this case, 0.8, and the softness to I think 0.15 is okay. It's usually the softness of the contact shadow is you would like to tend to make something similar to the softness of the shadow, okay. So that's good. I will set the strength to 5, okay, and the softness to 1.25 here, 1.4. Great, perfect. I have something good now, but you could see that on the sailing I have some strange artifacts, some lights coming from the sailing or the edge, okay, and it comes from another problem, okay, and the problem is the geometry. Look at this. It's just a plane, okay, and surface are closer here. Yeah, I think it's okay, but Eevee, the thickness of your mesh is really important in Eevee. If the mesh is too thin, it's not good. So I will extrude this something like this, okay, and it probably will resolve the trouble. And in this case is not resolved. It's only because, I will show you, you need on your light to increase the exponent value. The exponent value is really important because it reduces the light bleed. So I set it to 10, okay. It's not enough to solve the trouble here, but you will see that now if I select this one and extrude it, and I will normal, recalculate normal here, the problem is solved, okay. So sometimes when you have artifact or some strange thing with light and shadow, it's probably become both from the exponent setup of your shadow in your light and geometry trouble. So for the geometry, really important to make shape like this, not plane. And when surface are really closer, it's better to make the mesh penetrate themselves than just touching, okay. And you could also have a quick check on the face orientation, the normal, okay, because if you have flipped normal, it may cause some trouble too. Great, so geometry, thickness and normal, okay, and the cascade shadow is really important, already check, the sun position and the contact shadow, the value of the exponent is really important, okay, that's it. If you do that, it's probably half work, half of the problem solved. Great. Now you will see that the light of my environment passed through the mesh, okay. And if, for example, I select this lamp, need a bar here, okay, and add a point light, something like this, okay, and I will set too high value color like this, okay. Okay, I have shadow, I have additional shadow, I have lighting, but it not give a really realistic result of what this actual space look like, because it's not dark backside, because the light path through the mesh. And of course, it's not, if now I switch to cycle, it's more realistic, because I have the light bounce inside the room and the back is not lightened. Okay, but with Eevee you need to calculate this light bounce, and for that we will use here an irradiance volume. Okay, and the irradiance volume, you could just scale the irradiance volume according to the size of your scene. Okay, you probably already see a lot of tutorials about that, but I will do it again. Something like this. You are not forced to increase too much the value of the number of probe in the irradiance volume, because the result is sometimes good, sometimes not, and the render calculation is also higher. So if you want to quickly set your irradiance volume, it's better to set not too high this resolution for the probe. Okay, I go to indirect lighting, and I bake the indirect lighting. Normally it's not too long, depending of course of your computer. Okay, oh, I have hide the point light here, but it's probably render in the calculation of the irradiance because I only switch the viewport off. Okay, great. So now I have my light here, and you can see that if I change the power of my light, okay, it's actually easy to have a good idea of the energy of the light, of the color, and it's better to work like this, okay? So don't hesitate, even if you have no materials, etc., to set quickly your irradiance volume and bake it first time, okay? And rebake it after, rebake it along the whole process, okay? I will just delete this. You also will see that for me to light correctly elements, I like to work without without any materials and some colors who can affect the way that I would like to see the light. So I usually set all materials to a green value to start. Unfortunately, I don't have the option like I have in Cycle here to make an override material who override all existing material in the scene. So for this tutorial, and usually I switch, I set the principled group and just unconnect all my material, okay, to work with a kind of gray box, a gray clay render, excuse me. Great. I will just switch. I will delete the light cache here. Okay. Good for the irradiance. Nothing special. Don't hesitate to calculate the irradiance very quick in the project before to add some point lights and different lighting in your scene. Now we will add two different things. First, I will set more reflection in this material because I would like to add the screen space reflection. Okay. So I have the screen space reflection here in the ground, and I would like also to add the screen space reflection on the lamp here. So I would like to have something like this, metal. Great. Perfect. And now I would like to add here a cube map, a reflection cube map. So I scale the reflection cube map, okay, and one important thing is to have the reflection cube map without any element here. Okay, it must be in an empty space, not inside an object or something like this. I'm not sure about how good is it to scale this kind of object, because normally it's not recommended to scale light, camera, etc. But I've seen a lot of tutorials with guy who scale this kind of object, and it works pretty well. So I use the same. Great. You will see that now if I use the screen space reflection, and I just will add a camera here, something like this. I will just lock the camera to the viewport. Sometimes screen space reflection do something strange in the corner of your picture. So I will deactivate this, and I will just bake the here. Bake the indirect lighting. If you bake the indirect lighting in, it bake the radiosity, the bounce of the light, and the reflection of the reflection cube map too. But you can also bake the cube map only. bake it like this. Perfect. You could see that I have strange reflection in the ground here. You could see that it's not correct. So I have masked object in the viewport here, but if you could see that on the this element, the storage here, it's not really good. The reflection are not correct. Okay, probably because of the scale of the cube map, and I usually like to blend the screen space reflection with this, and usually it works. So normally I use screen space reflection and a reflection cube map, and for me it's worked pretty well. Just will reduce the, I will delete the light cache here. The last thing you could add is in the world. Here I choose it's simply a blank color here, okay, but I will use texture, image texture, not image texture, environment texture, because if you would have the equirectangular option, it's environment texture. You could choose a texture here. I usually get my HDRI file on HDRI Heaven, a very good website. Everything is free, and you can support the guy who created this beautiful texture on Patreon. And you set your HDR file here, okay, and after that you need to have an input texture coordinate and a vector mapping node here, just because you could now use the Z rotation to actually change a bit the rotation of your cube map here. And when it's done, I will redo this time a complete indirect lighting, and I bake everything. I want to have here in the render option transparent. I don't want to have the view on my HDR file. Great. So now I think your scene is good. See that I have the reflection here. This is correct. Great, perfect. So it's not good, but I think I have now respect the list, and I have all the elements in my scene to start now to enhance this scene with materials, with specific lighting inside, to create the complete scene. But it's really important to set up this scene correctly before to go further in the work. So the next step will be the materials, and probably the way of putting a lot of objects in a scene like this. Okay, with the chair, the bottles, the glass, everything, the storage, and there is also some tips useful for both Eevee and Cycle, especially if you work on slow computer, and we will see that in the next video.